Hello, and welcome to our brand new podcast series, Decade of Excellence Reimagining Human Health. Through this series, we'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of our bioengineering department here at the University of Texas at Dallas. My name is Shalini Prasad, and I am the department head for the bioengineering department.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the new episode of Decade of Excellence podcast. And in this episode, I have two guests with me. The first is Ron Nag, and he's a senior executive and entrepreneur specializing in engineering technology, healthcare, and business development. He is the CEO of MedCognetics, and today we'll learn a little bit more about this company and what it's going to be doing. And for all you students listening in, this is the way entrepreneurship gets done in bioengineering, because along with Ron, we have Katherine Brown, or newly minted Dr. Brown, our very own PhD graduate and our commencement speaker for this spring commencement, virtual commencement in bioengineering. And she's an advisor to MedCognetics. And today they're going to tell us the story behind this and also the story of their relationship and work in Texas Instruments, which we all know is one of the founding fathers of engineering here at UT Dallas. So with that, Ron, let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Dr. Prasad, for having me on this podcast. It's a pleasure and honor, and it's a pleasure and honor to be virtually on campus. By training, I am a control systems engineer and with an emphasis on real-time controls. So I've got experience in mechanical, computer, and electrical engineering as part of a whole system. And I have worked in the industry as a design engineer and then an engineering manager in telecom, datacom, worked at Texas Instruments. We'll get into that, where Kathy and I met in various types of chip designs, and then on to an entrepreneurial career, including a stint at DaVita Kidney Care, so as a healthcare executive. And now this is either my third or fourth chapter of the career, however you want to look at it, of engineering, management, and now I'll call it somewhere between academics and entrepreneurship. And now looking at how I can take research and earnestly great design and technology that lies upon a campus, not lies, but is sometimes a hidden gem on a campus, and trying to turn that into a commercial entity. So that's what I've been doing up till now. Thank you.
That's great. It's a good thing to the students. Being very multidisciplinary is very important. Kathy, can you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, happy to. And thanks for having me today on the podcast. So I'll keep this brief. As Dr. Prasad said, I'm just finishing my PhD this semester in bioengineering in Dr. Kenneth Hoyt's lab. It's been a fantastic 4 years for me, where I've been learning lots of new things and focused on breast cancer and using super resolution ultrasound imaging of microvascular networks. That's the title of my thesis. And along the way, I've been able to collaborate with some amazing folks at UTD, including two really great computer science, one undergrad and one master's student. We might talk more about that later. My background coming in is more electrical engineering. I have a bachelor's and a master's in EE, and 30 years plus, let's not count it all, in industry, including the last 19 years of that at Texas Instruments. Now I've really made a major pivot, and I'm working on what I'm calling my encore career. And that's focused on giving back. And with this degree now under my belt, I'm looking forward to teaching and doing research, remaining here in the bioengineering department at UTD.
We are very excited to have you, Kathy, teach for us in bioengineering starting fall. Let's delve into the TI relationship, right? So maybe I'll start with Kathy. Take us back to Texas Instruments. How did you two come to know each other? And what were your first collaborations in TI like?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a funny story. Ron and I had offices on the same hallway for a number of years without really getting to know each other, which was in retrospect, kind of a sad situation, but very, very busy people working on different projects. But the guy on the end of the hall was a TI fellow, Gene France, a mentor to both of us, a really fantastic individual. And I remember one day he told me, "Oh, you don't know Ron Nog? Well, you need to get to know him. He's amazing. He's magnificent." And I thought, "Oh, cool. I'll put that away." And then later we did have a project together where we're looking to land a very large sales account, and that did not end well. In fact, it ended with the entire business division being severely downscaled, and it was basically a very difficult time for both of us, and we forged a very close bond. And ever after that, when we were both at TI, we remained at TI for some time. I remember checking on my people, making sure their careers, those who had made it through that difficult period together, were still gainfully employed and had good, strong career paths to follow. And Ron and I just kept it up. And you'll hear more about that. I'll throw it to Ron now.
Thanks, Kathy. Just to mirror that, Kathy was a very diligent, conscientious, and very focused executive at Texas Instruments and took care of her teams. And one of the reasons was that we may have not interacted was, you can be right next to someone next door and everybody's managing very large projects and programs and you just become in your world. I think the first lesson I'd like to just convey to the audience is look up, say hello, say hi at the coffee room. This is not very high tech. It is things I should have learned in kindergarten. But it turned out that not only that we had a lot of commonality in the way we manage teams and our business beliefs, but something that is when now I look back retrospectively and prospectively at my career is finding genuinely good people. When you do, hang on to them, make a point somehow to keep that connection going, and we did. Kathy is being very kind about the trials that we went through of shutting down a business unit. I will say that it was one of those things that it takes away a part of you that you don't get back when you have to shut down a group like that. And it's not chips and equipment. It's over 1,600 people that have to be, have to cope with the fact of, what they're working on is not there anymore. But our collaborations from there, we went on to seeing how we can do a bigger and better impact. Kathy touched upon community. It really drives both of us and gets us out of bed. And some of the projects that we're even involved with now started with the community. And the vignette from my side is that both of my parents were college professors. I grew up on a university campus, and one of the last things my father requested was to go back onto campus and find research. His never made it to the light of day, and he did cardiac research, and see if you can make a difference, make it matter with the tools that you have. And Kathy and I have that same credo of trying to make it happen. And I'm very pleased to be able to call Kathy Dr. Brown. She follows a wonderful legacy, and it's more than an encore career, I think.
That's really great, like how the germ of your collaboration started from your interactions in Texas Instruments, although a little late then, probably when you've been there for a long period of time. So let's kind of get into your current collaborations. How have your collaborations evolved and grown? And what is the most exciting thing for both of you right now in terms of what you're working together as a team? So Ron, let's start with you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Prasad. I'd say that I'll pick up where I left off. So getting back onto campus was very important to me. I believed in the UT system and the UTD system, and being also a resident of Richardson. And I started working on doing guest lecturing for the Johnson School, as well as getting involved with grading senior design and epics, which is very near and dear to my heart, which has a strong community pull. And I was able to work with both the engineering and computer science departments at UTD that had a lab called the Quality of Life Lab that has Dr. Lakshman Tamil and Dr. Gopal Gupta as the two founding professors of that lab. And they had been working on a lot of digital technology for healthcare and quality of life issues. And so I was very focused on how can we have better patient outcomes that can impact the community. And one of the pieces of technology that we came across that was pretty ready to come out was an AI methodology for pixel processing and with deep learning of mammograms to detect the early onset of breast cancer. And we have been able to, fortunately, take this technology and license it from UTD and turn it into a commercial entity, which is MedCognetics. Kathy, in her journeys, as she started working on her graduate studies and programs and then her thesis, dovetailed exactly into where we were going, not only in neural networks, the way she was looking at data, the types of gifted engineers she was and students she was working with, and even how her thesis had a lot of common roots, and I won't call them overlaps, but again, common philosophies that were put into the AI technology that MedCognetics licensed. So now we're really collaborating on how we get this out, because the first product is done. We're going into our FDA submission and doing trials around the world. And we also brought in another partner, which was the UT Southwestern Medical Center. And because it was a great partnership of the technology of UTD with all the medical data and the clinical capability that UT Southwestern brought. And so Kathy has been sitting at the intersection of that with me. Kathy?
Yeah, I'll kind of go backwards and then come forwards again. So Ron and I, post-TI, let's say, would regularly meet for lunch or coffee or beer, whatever was the theme of the month. And drown our sorrows if necessary in whatever beverage we were drinking. And post-TI, the first startup Ron was involved in was called BioAlert, and it had to do with epilepsy, which I know very little about, but it really intrigued me, and I enjoyed hearing more about it. And he would run things by me. It was mostly more the business side, because at that point I was not in the bioengineering department. And my background in business was more valuable to him. So we would just talk about business kinds of things. And then when he heard I was thinking about going to UTD, he did a sales job on me. He was involved with the EPICS program at that point. And he started introducing me to this person and that person and, talking it up. And yeah, it did have an effect. Dr. Hoyt was also very influential in my decision. But it was really an eye-opener to see what Ron was up to already on campus. Then we evolved into MedCognetics. BioAlert, went the way of many startups, and we moved on. MedCognetics then was really more in my future wheelhouse, deep learning. And just as I was making my first year's endeavor, trying to figure out how deep learning might be applied to my super resolution ultrasound tasks, which I did successfully figure out, I learned a great number of things that were some of the same kinds of ideas that Ron was facing as building a startup based on deep learning. And we had some great conversations about what he should worry about in the training of the network and how important the data was, and some themes. I can't say I did not work at MedCognetics, but we had great conversations about pitfalls and strategies and that sort of thing. And then later I did join MedCognetics recently as an advisor, and we're getting ready to work on the next idea, which it's just a very, very fun place to be, working on new ideas. I'm really enjoying that.
So let's delve a little bit deeper into, both of your affinity and affiliation with the biomedical engineering. So what excites you and led you into biomedical engineering research and the kinds of applications you're looking at? And Kathy, perhaps we could start with you on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go really far back and say my grandfather was a surgeon and my uncle was MD, and I had an interest in medicine, but I was too squeamish to actually go to med school. So when this was a long time ago, I'm nearly 60 years old. So when I was trying to get into college, there was one program in the country that I knew did bioengineering, and that was Johns Hopkins. At that moment, my family could not afford Johns Hopkins, and that was it for me. I moved on, and I settled for electrical engineering, but kept my eye open. I really wanted to apply it to medical. At Texas Instruments, I had a brief opportunity to do that, but for business reasons, that it was brief. And when I did my master's in the late 90s, I also was able to take my electrical engineering into a ultrasound direction and a medical direction. So I guess I've been a frustrated bioengineer for 55 years then, and and then recently I was able to work my way into the bioengineering program. So leaving TI, maybe a few words there. So I come to this program now and finishing my PhD with a lot of experience in industry, which I wouldn't trade for anything. There was a lot of good things that I learned. And the reasons I left TI, I had become more focused on business areas. I was promoted into high levels of business management, and that took me further and further away from technical work. And I found that when I spent any time on those technical topics in the workplace, which as a manager you still do spend some time on, those were the most rewarding days and the rewarding parts of my day. The other element was that I felt I was nearing the end of my shelf life as a senior manager. Those roles are generally pretty brief. They circulate people through senior management. And so I decided it was time to get back to a more technical role when I left. And that's kind of how I ended up working on a PhD in bioengineering.
Ron, what about you?
Well, for me, what led me into these roles was, again, the heritage of my family. So in my family, you had 4 career choices. You could be a doctor, engineer or doctor. You pick. So I picked, I was the engineer and my brother is the invasive cardiologist. So the family got the checkbox. But medicine and medical technology never left me. I always ended up, even as I was in telecom and other things, they would always be about how the network can connect to the patient or the device or the telemetry all through my career, and even working on mission critical systems inside the human body. And Texas Instruments does, different types of devices there. But also when I went to DaVita Kidney Care, it really amplified my attention and need for that, to have positive and superior patient outcomes, and the earlier that we could detect the onset of renal failure. So I looked at, as an engineer, especially a systems engineer, healthcare is probably one of the largest problems you can tackle. As engineers, we're problem solvers. And then as I saw more and more the type of interaction Kathy and I had through the different startups that I worked with, especially from the nervous system then on to breast cancer, we started realizing that we could look at these problems both clinically and data-wise, but at a system level. And we could start using our engineering skills as well as our newfound skills and our, I'll call it, latent passion for what happens in medicine. And so we were able to interplay, and I think I should touch back upon what Kathy mentioned, those coffees and beers and all, the ability to have free collaboration or free thinking really helped solve problems, inspired ideas, and that's what kind of drove me, where Kathy's now on the research side and on the application side, and me really into the application side of how do we take this and make a greater impact to, again, another theme that Kathy brought up, community. It really, an engineer is given the gifts and the skill sets to solve problems for the betterment of the community and the world at large. That's what we do.
I absolutely agree with the comments both of you made, the impact of the community and free thinking, right? And there's no better place than a university that we get that. And so hence I wanted to ask both of you, and I'll again start with you, Ron. What is the role that UT Dallas plays in all of this? And of course, now in your newest adventure, MedCognetics.
It's probably part of the core of who I am now, in my chapter. The roles are a technical role. It keeps me sharp technically in working with new and young talent and bright students. It keeps you focused and young, and always asks the question why in a genuine way. UT Dallas plays a role in a wellspring of studies and technology and research that's coming out of there. And I'll make a plug into what now I lovingly call UT Dallas North Campus. I work at South Campus too, which is UT Southwestern. And if UT makes an engine, you're going to need the petrol or the fuel to drive it. And clinical data is in abundance down at UT Southwestern. You have to find the right place from there to pull it from. But so UT Dallas plays a huge part for me on the research and collaboration. And last, entrepreneurship. I am MedCognetics is on campus in the Venture Development Center at UT Dallas, and again being part of the community as UT Dallas moves the Venture Development Center to have an annex over at the Innovation Quarter in Richardson, which is not very far away from one of my first careers in Richardson as a telecom engineer at Samsung. I'm happy to say that MedCognetics will be probably one of the first, if not the first, startup to be in that location. Again, powered by UTD. So UTD plays in every aspect of my professional and personal career.
Yes, well, they've been paying my salary a little while, so wink, that's the first thing that UTD plays in my work. But yes, one thing I think I'll start with is that my expectations have been quite greatly exceeded at UTD. I wasn't sure what exactly to expect with a public university like UTD, but it's been a very pleasant surprise. There's a lot of talent, and I find a very collegial atmosphere. And particularly maybe in the lab that I joined, Dr. Hoyt's lab, it's just very friendly, and you can get a lot done when people work together. And I feel like that has worked for me in bioengineering. And I'll bring up again the fact that I've been collaborating with students in computer science. Bioengineering is very multidisciplinary, and maybe it's hard to put your finger on what you ought to study to be the best bioengineer. You should study it all, So for me to think that I could be a really great computer scientist and really know a lot of biology it's too much of a stretch. So in this collaboration, I took the best of some really great talent that the university has in computer science to help build the neural network that I thought would solve my problem. And then, I worked on it, but it was really conceived of and perfected by specialists. And that's a great example, I think, of the breadth of talent we have at UTD. And I'll kind of spike out another factor. So Dr. Lakshman Tamil is the professor whose first intellectual property is the basis for MedCognetics, where it's an AI engine for mammograms. And so there are many departments, and then UT Southwestern clearly is where all the data is. So this UT community is central to what Ron and I look forward to enjoying in the future for our projects now and into the future.
That's really exciting, right? So when we think about what all the future can be, so that actually is a good segue to my last question to the both of you, right? What do you think the future holds for you in research, in collaborations, in your projects, and where do you see yourself going from here? And so maybe Kathy, we can start with you first and then go and end with Ron.
One great thing about the future is that you can get excited about it without knowing what exactly there is in store for you there, which maybe is a good thing because it's not always good surprises, like, we might have a pandemic or something. However, I'm imagining that there are more IP opportunities and opportunities to work together for Ron and myself. And MedCognetics is actually a bigger company than one AI project in mammography. So I foresee some additional projects there. And UTD will probably be the center of some additional collaborations with UT Southwestern as the bioengineering department collaborates in the future, I think, much more closely with the bioengineering department at UT Southwestern. So I think that'll give us other opportunities. The Richardson IQ Center is an amazing concept. I hope it will live up to, I think, the aspirations that all of us have for it. So those are the things that I kind of will contribute to the picture that I'm forming of a very exciting future, with many of the details as yet to be, figured out by me and by Ron and by many other IP contributors at the university.
Kathy said it the best. I would just probably go to a punchline part that is that what does the future hold in all these things is I surely want it to be fun. I want it to be meaningful. I want it to be fruitful, like Kathy's talking about, and it's circling back to community. I think the more you grow the pie, be it in the research community, in the industry community, and in the community at large, everybody benefits. All ships rise as the tide goes up. And I think one of the common denominators to start driving more of the research and these collaborations is finding active pieces of research and, for lack of a better word, caches of data of critical problems that need to be solved moving forward. So I look forward with Kathy and the UTD team and the UT Southwestern team to go find more of those challenges, because quite honestly, as I mentioned in the talk earlier, healthcare is a very large problem to solve, and there are many pieces. We're not going to solve all of them here in one shot, but one step at a time. So looking forward to seeing where those collaborations lead us as a team and as a community.
Well, I wish you all the very best, both of you, on your next new adventure as it comes along with new projects to solve at the intersectionality between UTD and UT Southwestern. And I fully agree with you, right? Because we are probably what a new university needs to look like and a new public-private partnership needs to look like. So this is truly exciting times. And this has been such an engaging and enlightening conversation. And I thank you both for doing this grand finale with us and helping us to, especially our student audience, to see that how bioengineering can basically morph and diversify. So thank you both for your time today.
Thanks for talking with us.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.